7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street, Swan River, this 27th day of May 2025 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Brian Burick, Byron Zbirun, Terry Neely, Brad Kushniryk, RJ McGregor, and Carrie Blosha. Our CAO, Kristi, Ronnquist is here. Our videographer, Jeremy Burick, is here, and we have some guests joining us tonight in the gallery. We'll start into the agenda at number 2. Be it resolved, the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 27th day of May 2025 shall be adopted as presented. Councillor Burick, and I also see Councillor Neely inside there. Is there any changes or additions, deletions wanted for the agenda tonight? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Let's go, if it pleases everyone. Do you have one more coming yet, or are you?
Supposed to be.
Okay, we'll wait for them. So we'll go to minutes. Number 3. We resolved the minutes of the regular council meeting held May 13th, 2025, and the minutes of the public hearing held May 13th, 2025 be adopted as presented. We have a mover. We'll take Councillor Zbirun, and we also have Councillor Kushniryk. Copies of both sets of minutes are attached to the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Are there any errors or omissions? All right, cheek round. Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Heading to number 4, the Public Works Report. Copies attached. We'll read through it together. Gravel hauling is going well. Jason Barkman and crew have completed 42 miles in the south as of Monday morning. Cooks have completed 36 miles in the north as of Monday morning. On the table tonight we have gravel maps. The orange indicates gravel to come. Orange with black lines over is gravel that's already been applied, so you're all welcome to take a peek at that later on. Cooks will be moving south towards town as of Tuesday morning and starting to work their way west on 218. All roads selected for gravel off it, north and south. Jason Barkman's headed towards Pretty Valley and Wheels Road this week. Will be moving from east to west as they continue to work their way to the north. The uncrowning of roads in Ward 6 has started and will continue between ongoing maintenance of roads. There may be a need for some gravel on the roads as we've yet to reduce from 8% crown to 3 to 4% crown. Please keep in mind some things may well look worse before they look better. Maybe a lot worse. Ongoing park maintenance is happening in Benito and Kenville. Benito campground facilities are being painted. I saw some of those were done already yesterday. Some repair happening there as well. They're working on a parking lot in Kenville in the coming weeks. That parking lot will be set up so the dumpsters can sit in it. Have a little better spot for them on the side of the road. Beavers are causing some issues. Last couple of weeks we're averaging about 6 or more culverts a week needed to be unplugged due to beavers, so we've been working through that. Up at Smith Creek, culvert survey has been completed in order to solve the issue of having to fix repair the roads every year, so we're now working with water resources on what we're going to do for that. It was asked Mr. Wills to design a garbage rake attachment for the hoe to be used at the landfill. So I worked through that design and see if it looks like something that could help us clean that up a bit. Sean's been working hard at repairing mowers. 15-foot mower is complete. Smaller 10-foot is ready in Benito. He's working on a 15-footer in Swan. Now, I'm not sure we have two 15s. That's Public Works and I have been having a disagreement on that. I think we have two 10s and a 15. Does anybody else think it's two 15s? Yeah. Okay, we're working through with that a little more. I think maybe what they've read is the number on the hitch has a 15 to it, and so they're thinking it's a 15-foot mower, but we'll work through it. Lighting in the vault may need new ballasts to be upgraded to LED because it's an ongoing battle. That's this vault.
Yeah.
Who needs to see in there, really? Time is being set aside for a review of Road 158 from Cement Works to Four Corners to figure out exactly the repair rebuild plan for that this summer. In the following weeks, we're looking at breaking ground for the water park in preparation for construction. There's a note here, we need to start doing some more planning on our municipal landfill improvements for everything that's going on there. And dust control will be starting the 4th of June, running into the 5th. We're hoping to be done the 2 days. If not, we'll be running into the 3rd day. So that is the Public Works report this evening. Any discussion on it? Councillor Neely.
158, thorough review. What does that involve?
We're going to go out there and figure out exactly what we can do for you. If you're around, we'll bring you with. And spend some time seeing where we're going to dig a ditch, or if we're just going to build up higher, or how we're going to fix it best.
Okay, well, a sand base, so there's not much you can do to it, really, I don't think, unless you put some clay down and put something under it, it's just gonna spread out. It doesn't matter what kind of gravel you put on there, it still turns to washboard. The bigger the gravel, the bigger the washboard, is basically what happens.
We were kind of wondering about bringing some alpine stuff.
Yeah, I think Chad had mentioned that.
High enough clay, right? Maybe it would be good enough there that we can actually get some base packed on.
It's gonna need like 8 or 10 inches likely. And some kind of a ditch, the ditch is higher than the road.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, it won't be easy or cheap, but
I don't know, I thought maybe we might be able to check with somebody like Barry Campbell or somebody, get some advice too, you know.
we can send Eric out to talk to him too. See.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Zbirun.
Seeing that dust control is at the last end there, we can maybe discuss it now. Are we gonna make sure all the sites are graded before the application's put on? Because I
So,
believe last year there was quite a few sites that weren't graded and calcium was put on and then they were rough all spring, all summer.
2 of the 4 areas, all roads have been graded in advance of that. The other 2, they're just finishing up, but they have been instructed over and over again to make sure it's.
To make sure they're graded before, okay?
Yeah.
Now that map, he has a calcium map probably, eh?
We're making one as people buy it, yes.
Okay. I've had a request, it's not a 224, the Hall Road 224 going east of number 10.
Okay.
Is there any chance we can do a stretch from the highway a little bit so the dust doesn't come onto the highway when the trucks all stop? Like we do that on 216.
Well, look at me, look at these other people, you gotta talk them into
Okay,
it.
we do that on 216. We do that just before the highway. Can we do it at 224?
On the west side of the highway?
On 216, we do it on the west side, yeah.
What you talking about, 500 feet before, or what?
No, 500 feet, 300 feet I think is lots. But it's just that the dust carries on when the trucks are coming and it just, like that's the main traffic road, that 224, east of number 10, goes to Minnetonka's, Lenswood.
Graham's Pit,
No,
if
that's
you
not
go
Graham's
west,
Pit,
right?
no.
Is that 224?
224 is Griffiths.
So if you go west, you go to Graham's Pit.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. But that is a haul road there too. But is there any chance we can add that on to about 300 feet?
How's everybody feel?
For safety concern, that's.
Is that in Ward 6?
Yes, it's
I
in
guess
It
so.
is. Can you make a note for this?
Well, I'd say 300 feet is lots. 500 feet, that's quite a bit. Just before this highway.
Anything else for Public Works report tonight? Okay, let's move to our delegation. We've got 2 folks here, Rick Nahnybida and Mark Maga are here. Joining us to talk about Boundary Road Agreement. Come on, bring some chairs and come on up and make yourselves comfortable.
Okay, we don't have a real lot, I don't think.
Text that says you couldn't.
I mean, you guys all know about the boundary agreement that we have with you, and, I mean, there's no, it's all good, I don't think we have any issues with it. But we've been having issues is with your gravel hauler.
Okay,
Last year, he destroyed 2 miles of road on the boundary, and then he moved over a mile, and pretty near demolished that as well for us. This year, he started it again down on the south there. Our Reeve chased him around. Last year, our administrator chased him around to get him to stop when it was wet. This year, our Reeves chased him around and got him to lay some gravel down because they were wrecking the roads. They're not, when the roads are soft, when, you know, when the spring, I mean, you guys know all about it, when it's spring and soft, he just keeps hauling.
And road bands on as well.
And, you know, we're to the point is we're either gonna, and I mean, I know it, and we're here because we know it affects you. I mean, he's hauling out of there, which I don't think anybody has a problem with, but he's not respecting our area when it's wet or it's soft or whatever. He just
so
keeps
this
on
has
hauling.
happened this year already.
Yeah,
Oh, big time.
And which one of our haulers is it?
close.
Cooks.
So they haven't hauled any material for us out of there this
No.
year.
He's hauling.
Well, they've been hauling out of there, so
hauling
for
we don't know where it's going, but
They have said, I have asked him, who you hauling for? And he says Swan Valley West.
Because the only thing they've
And
hauled for
there's
us right now is coming over Birch River.
Is it Barry Campbell or what's his, Lincoln
Campbell.
Campbell.
Yeah.
And also, you know, we'd appreciate if you just keep on using whoever is hauling for you, that haul road, not going
Yeah.
2 miles south and then.
when it got really soft, same thing, they moved over again and started wrecking another road for
Yeah.
us, so.
And
Yeah,
that was last year that they did the
No,
road, or that's this year too?
this spring,
This year too.
this spring.
Yeah. And like I said, we don't know who they're hauling for. I mean,
Do you
it's,
have any idea, like the dates roughly?
Oh, I should have marked it down.
we probably want them marked, or like when they are, but.
If you could, because we would like to go back and see what they were hauling,
Hmm.
so we could have that discussion of why were you there?
Yeah. Like I said, I know it affects you guys get some gravel out of there, and there's, I don't know who hauls out of King's Pit there either.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That one isn't as bad because it's very close to the line, but it's that one further in, you know, they were coming all the way north to White Beach last year, and then going in across that Ford crossing on the Woody, and going north there.
Talking that road, but Kalinowski's road past
Yeah,
Kalinowski's?
yeah, that's the road,
Yeah.
yeah, up past.
Yeah.
No, the whole road is past the greenhouse there, then it's.
It was bad last year, I went there last year, I had,
I'll just, yeah, yeah.
So that's just something we want to make you guys aware, because, like I said, we've chased them around, and it's, I mean, there's only so much we can do as well, I guess, and it would be nice if, you know, if they maybe hear it from another source as well, is.
And have they, like, they've put some gravel now, should they?
They did.
Should they be putting more? Have they put
It's
enough?
gonna need more, definitely it's gonna need more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's still our turn to deal with the boundaries there. I mean, we're gonna end up putting a little extra on there too, because like last year it was bad. And we had a lot of washer, I don't know how everybody, you guys are, but we had a lot of washovers this year in that north of ours, in that Division 4, and I think that boundary went over about 4 places or something, so. We'll be adding a little extra there and whatnot, just to look after that, so. The rest of it, I think, wasn't too bad, the boundaries were all
Yeah.
so that's basically was our concern about this, them hauling that out there. It's been costing lots to try and keep it passable for everybody else as well. So.
Okay. We will
And plus,
certainly-
well, then also talked to Rick, and he said possibly maybe discussing a little fee with you guys.
Do
on
you
the gravel.
do anything for aggregate levies in Saskatchewan, or is that not a thing?
We do.
We do.
Okay. So are they paying that when they go down those roads like they should, or no?
Not
One,
usually. We got one guy.
Full
that-
one of the piece.
Yeah.
The others don't.
Spent works, they usually pay.
Yeah.
But
That's
same thing, Cooks, we chase them around. We had a bit of a road maintenance agreement, but they didn't really want to pay anything on it either. And like I said, our administrator went out there one day and stopped the trucks, and then he doesn't, you know, and whether he's working for you or at some of that, I don't know. I mean, we don't know.
Like
Yeah,
there was one time
sometimes it's
before
probably other
Easter,
stuff.
most
Still.
Easter weekend where they were, and then last week in fact, I had talked to one guy. Because there was some trucks going, well, Byron knows past Mike's and then up where they're supposed to go. But there was the odd guy going straight south yet, and I had stopped and talked to the young fella, and I said, who are you hauling for? Swan Valley Rest? He said, yes, that's what he told me.
And it was a Cook's truck?
Last week.
last week.
But it
He
was-
said, a guy should have been marking all this down.
But that was a Cook's truck?
Yeah, as far as I
Mark.
understand, yeah.
Okay.
Young fella, there was nothing on the door. but-
I'll maybe ask, because like, Cook's for us has been, we've had all of their trucks coming out of Birch River for 3 weeks. They haven't
He said-
hauled a thing out of there.
He said there was nothing on the door
I'm
that
thinking it might be the other hauler, it might be Barkman.
Yeah,
Cook
and
said
there's nothing,
Barkman's been
Cook has no
hauling it.
unmarked trucks.
and Barkman's has
Right,
nothing on
yeah,
the
this guy
door.
has nothing on his,
Yep.
A white truck?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
Barkman's
Barkman.
truck.
Okay, we'll talk to him then too.
And there was a few of them hauling, there was a brown truck,
Mhm.
and I talked to one guy, and there was, I don't know, maybe 5 trucks hauling. It was last Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe. And most of them were going, except one guy was going his own routes. And when I talked to him, I said, you should pass the message on.
So the other ones were on the right road though?
Yes.
Just the one guy
That
was-
big,
that big.
that big.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, don't be surprised, Kristi will probably call for more details, but we'll start the discussion.
Yeah,
And
no,
then we'll-
that's fine, you know, that's why we're here tonight, that's understandable, that's why we're here tonight. So.
Okay.
We don't have issues like that in Swan Valley West.
You just have no gravel, so.
especially Ward 6.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a ton of gravel comes up out of that, in that little corner there,
So,
so
yeah,
that's.
there's 3 pits.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the main thing. You guys are quite fortunate, you guys have the watershed on your side here. When you guys did all, and probably nobody was on council yet, when you guys did all the 4 crossings on that Woody up by my place and then on the Swan River here, would you have any information of how you guys went about getting that work done? And are you looking to do anything on that golf course one?
So the golf course one is in really, really bad shape.
I see that.
We had engineers out last fall, and they estimate $500,000 or so to get a couple years out of it. So at the moment, we're doing engineering for a bridge,
Oh,
which will be a $3 or $4 million touch.
yeah.
But
We have
looked at
a
it.
crossing on the Swan River, north of Pelly there, that we have to deal with. Where it is, a bridge is not an option on it. We have to try and keep this for crossing, so,
It's deteriorating, like,
yeah. It was put in that, you know, the sides are crumbling on it and whatnot, so the way they fixed these ones at the time, you know, would be an option for us, so that's,
You can go there and talk to those guys anytime you want. They like that, so.
Who's that?
At a watershed.
A watershed.
I mean, I get it, it's still the Swan River, but I know we're on the other side of the line.
But it's not, they wouldn't fault you for that.
Yeah.
This will explain how,
Just
it was
give
both
an
a
idea.
fish ladder was the main thing. If you put a fish ladder in, it
Yeah.
opened up some doors.
Yeah.
We did that project with the watershed on the Boundary Road North.
Yeah, that
On
looks, yeah, they did.
On that river, yeah, excellent job.
Yeah, fantastic. We should have did it 10 years ago, but.
Yeah, I know, that was a bad corner,
Yeah.
but Barkman did the work, and we did that.
Barkman did the work.
Barkman did the work. We did that.
I'll run you guys up there.
That was a watershed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are very fortunate you guys got those guys to deal with. We have to deal with the Cinnabon watershed and we don't get near that kind of support and stuff like that. So, yeah. So I think that was all we really wanted to talk to you about.
About it.
Make you aware of that and
Yeah, that's really about it, so.
I think otherwise,
We're done. So you have some questions for us?
Anybody have anything they wanna,
Don't ask, I'm just a rookie, he's the senior man. So.
doesn't look like it. Thank you so much for coming.
okay.
Okay, well, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Yep.
So we're going to go to 7-1, we'll adjourn the meeting and get into a public hearing. Be it resolved, this regular meeting of council shall now adjourn at 7:18 PM to proceed with the public hearing regarding variation order at 912 Poplar Avenue. We'll reconvene following the public hearing. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Neely, and someone to second the resolution? Councillor Zbirun. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Let me go get our other agenda. So we welcome everyone to the public hearing regarding the variation order for 912 Poplar Avenue. There's a full council present this evening, so we'll call the meeting to order. Tonight we will be, I guess we have a resolution of that. Be it resolved, the Council of Municipality of Swan West hereby calls to order the public hearing regarding a variation application with the property known as 912 Poplar Avenue this 27th day of May 2025 at 7:19 PM. Is there someone to move that? Councillor Burick, and I see Councillor McGregor over there. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Carried. So tonight we're looking for anyone that wishes to tell us applications for or against the variation order. I know we have one person here for sure. You want to come on up and,
Yeah, so I brought my partner in crime.
Good
I
job.
have my papers.
perfect.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so you want to every single person.
thank you.
Might be a joint up.
Thank you.
I've never requested a variance before, so I don't know what kind of effort it's required.
That's more.
No,
than-
there should be
that's-
3 pages
That's way
there.
more than enough.
I'd rather be over than under
Yeah.
prepared. Okay, so I guess we can start, everyone has. So I'm Cassidy Delorier. This is my daughter, Ellis. You can take a seat right here. So she came to help me explain our case and help you guys approve our variance. So I have our information on there. Jordan and Cassidy. Jordan couldn't make it. He is a carpenter and he'll be the one doing all the work. So the property is 912 Poplar Avenue. We have 1.1 acres is what our property, and it's currently zoned as RR2, which means we're required to be 125 feet away from the road, which is ridiculous, as you'll see on page 3, but we can get there. The addition's 18 by 30, not quite, a little notched out, so an additional 500 square feet to our 1,300 and change square foot house. So our request is to decrease the current distance to the road by 4.6 yards, which doesn't seem like a lot, 14 feet. The reason that the addition is 18 feet, but the request is only 14 feet, because we have this really big overhang, so that reduces it by 4 feet. So the current distance is 66 feet, and so we are requesting it to be 52 feet. I did note on here, RR2, that's what we were zoned at, we're required to be, I think it should say 125, not 90 feet. But the RS15, if we were zoned as that, would only require us to be 30 feet. So if we go to the second page, you can see my nice addition. Hopefully that'll get done soon. And how it is comparing to the house that is next door to us. So they'll actually still be farther ahead than we are right now. Yes, they are a trailer. They're not a permanent dwelling, but as permanent as a trailer is, they are going to be farther. So our addition is the first. The second picture is how it relates to our next door neighbors. And then the third photo, well, that little red square shows the actual addition. And then if we go to the third page, actually there's 4 pages, not 3. You can see my property line, 1.1 acres. It's very long and thin. And then the second page, you can see A is our foot requested, so we're still going to be 52 feet from changing from B, which is 66 feet. And then the bylaw with how we are zoned is 125 feet. So in theory, our house should have been way back to where our swing set is. Which obviously it was not, because that would be crazy. And then I just brought, this is from the bylaws on here, stating how far everything has to be. So the GD, General Development Zone, I believe is Kenville. Single family homes only have to be 30 feet from, but when you look at the RR2 in the second graph, it shows that we have to be 125 feet, but if we were zoned differently at RS15, we'd only have to be 30 feet. And so when I did look at the definitions of RR2 versus RS15, it does show RR2, which is what we were zoned at, provides for non-farm residential development and plan of subdivision where keeping of livestock is limited to horses. So I am pretty familiar with these bylaws because we did have neighbors who did try to have horses. We're not allowed to have livestock actually because of how small our lots are. So we shouldn't really be zoned as RR2. We should be zoned as RS15, which is residential on the fringe of urban centers, if you can call Swan River an urban center. So our lot, I didn't do a high level. The back end of it touches the tree nursery, which is like where the firefighters practice, and it would be equal in latitude, longitude, whatever the horizontal one is, to the RM shop. So that is where we are. So we are on the fringe, just south of this building, like 5 blocks. So anyways, our request is, can I build this addition so that I can build my home office and have a proper entrance? And can we rezone at some point so that I don't have to go through this and pay the variance fee again?
So I have some additional information I can share. Through some research, this particular block of properties, which includes that property that's currently being looked at for subdivision and these several lots beside it, have an irregularity in our planning and zoning bylaws. So the development plan provides that this area is an industrial area and can only be used for industrial development. But the zoning bylaw provides that these are RR2 zones. which they are not either, because they don't meet the minimum requirements to be in our R2 zone. So at the moment, our hands are tied on rezoning, because until the development plan is approved, which unfortunately our partners at Manitoba's Bozeman still can't see fit to approve, we cannot rezone. But we can provide the variance that's requested, so this can carry on. And someday, when that development plan finally gets approved by our neighbors, we would then be in a position where we could zone this to something more normal. Are you sure this is all you want for setback? You don't want it to be any closer? You don't want a bigger addition because you don't want to do this again?
I already pushed for this one because this is all that he'll allow me to build.
Then you're probably gonna be on the safe side.
I
yeah.
think it will look kind of silly if we start going too long. So yes, and we've already got our permit approved, our building permit. And so all we're waiting for is Arm of Swan Valley West to stamp it so we can start construction and be finished in the next 6 to 8 years because he is a carpenter, so.
Yeah, he got
His
it.
own gets
Yeah.
done last.
Exactly, unless I start, take out the drill, then he
Like the
gets real
plumber.
fast
The
on
plumber's
that.
got leaky tops at home.
Yeah.
The building permit you have already is from us?
I'm not sure. He already, like Ron Lewicki, is he the building permit
Development.
guy?
Development.
Development, yeah.
Okay. He'd probably still need a building permit after this.
Okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
He does that part. So we went and we applied for whatever and got it approved by somebody.
Okay.
And then got to, like, we paid one money and now we paid another money and then now we're here. And we will pay more money, but we just want to get
It's generally how it
to
works.
starting it.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this?
I just have a comment, it's not gonna stick out any further than
No.
the
No.
other one.
Oh, she's
No,
got-
it won't.
she's got all
It
the
might
proof.
uniform things up a little bit.
Well, the other houses in, I guess I didn't include the, oh yeah, so you can see in this,
Yeah.
in the third page there, it is gonna be slightly farther ahead than the other two. One is a trailer, the one beside is a home, and then the one beside me is a trailer. But yes,
Still 52 feet.
It's still,
away.
Yeah.
it's still her own yard.
yeah.
She's not going into their
Mhm.
space.
Yeah,
Is
just,
there a
She's
view?
going forward, not
Yeah.
backwards, yeah.
I don't know what you're gonna see there.
Anything else?
Nope, sounds good.
Are there any other people that wish to make representation this evening regarding the variance application? Hearing none, we will move to number 4. Be resolved, the public hearing shall now adjourn at 7:27 PM. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, and someone to second it? Councillor McGregor. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? As carried. So we'll reconvene our meeting of council once I get back to that agenda. So we'll come back into the regular meeting. If it should please council, I think we will skip down to, do we have a resolution, please?
I didn't see it today.
Give us a moment. Let's go ahead. Maybe what we'll do is, so straw poll, I assume we're approving this?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have the proper paperwork arranged yet. We'll arrange that as the meeting goes on. We'll come back to this, but you'll be receiving notice from us
Okay.
that there's been a
You did a
approval.
really good job.
Very good, very good.
But I better get her to bed.
Yeah, you can come anytime.
Yeah. You're hired.
You may want to work here
Take a box of
someday.
raisins with you.
I heard you told you to. Yeah, I didn't steal them, he gave. Okay, so I can leave,
Yep.
our job
Yep.
is done?
Your
Okay,
job is done.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it so
Thanks.
much.
Yep.
Let's go to 8-1. Once I get back to the school eventually stop fighting me. So into financial matters, General Cheques. Be resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General Cheques number 20506 to 20537, the amount of $68,342.38, and General Cheques number 20538 to 20540, the amount of $192,265.45, for a grand total of $260,607.83. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Neely. And someone to second? Councillor Kushniryk. Checks are attached, and I have the invoices over here. Who has questions? Councillor Blosha?
I do, but it's on the second batch of
Okay.
checks. I just want a little bit of explanation there.
So this is the gravel hauling and crushing checks? That's the second batch? So the 20538 is Campbell Construction.
Okay.
So it's 11,000 yards of crushing at the Birch River pit. And then also 80 yards of pit run will be hauled out of there when we're doing some flood repairs. It was a closer pit for some of it. Then 20539 is the first hauling invoice from Cook Brothers. So I believe that's with the 10% holdback, so that's the 90% of it. And then 20540 is Mr. Barkman for his hauling for the first round of hauling as well. Again, with the 10% holdback until it's complete.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Alright. Hearing nothing else, we'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? That's carried. 8.2 payroll checks. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves payroll payments number 783 to 799 in the amount of $27,531.19. There's someone that wishes to move the resolution. Councillor Blosha. And someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. Copy of the payroll summary is attached in the private view of the agenda for council to review. Is there any questions or discussion on this? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? Oh, you have? Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
but I can't.
Needs to go on camera?
Yeah.
Okay. So is it something that's going to change?
No,
the
it
rest?
just, there's one on here that I don't even recognize. 97797.
797?
797.
That is the water plant supervisor
Okay.
that gets $25 a day to review test results.
Okay. And the last one on the list, is that more than a 2-week pay period?
Would it be?
799. Doesn't look like it should be.
He started
In,
May, first little bit of May. Would that be 3 weeks instead of 2? Or something weird? We may have to check that to be sure
shouldn't,
exactly
because it's
what that is.
not every day, correct?
This full time?
He's full-time.
Full-time, okay, but also 786 is as well, and that's not, shouldn't be the same.
It would be very similar, wouldn't it?
Close?
Do you have a union agreement? Sandy?
Well, it can wait, but I just wondered if that was more than a.
If we can find the answer quick, we'll do it now, otherwise we'll do it.
Yeah,
later.
it's,
I don't have it.
no, that's
Okay.
fine, don't worry.
Do you want us to hold back on this? Or you
No,
want-
no,
we
no,
can
I
pass
know,
it
I
that
want
way?
them, I want
Okay.
them paid, I just
Can
wanted a
you-
little bit of an explanation.
Remind me in camera in case I forget.
Yeah, it's totally.
We'll get to it there too. Okay, so anything else on this resolution? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried.
If I don't ask the questions, I don't know the answer.
Well, no, that's, I totally understand. We do not have bank reconciliation tonight, so 8.3 is coming off the agenda. Let's go to 9.1, Swan Valley Fire Board financial statements. Copy of the Fire Board financial statements are attached. Some of the members of council got to spend about an hour hearing about how these all worked. And so I welcome either of you two to explain them all. Because you know.
You wasn't there, were you?
Oh, right, you skipped it. I remember that night that you skipped it. Anyways, we more than anything just attached these for information. So copies there. Does anyone have questions on the Fire Board financials that they want to ask? I'm not sure I could necessarily answer all the answers either, but a lot of the things you see in there are transitional because of it being the first full year of operation. So you'll see that the 2023 year is unaudited because really there was just 6 weeks of spinning the books up before the beginning of 2024, so we didn't do an audit on that year. And then there's some of the things in here are one-time expenses. There's also some weirdness where you see the assets and the prepaid expenses because there's a fire truck that has not yet been transferred over because of a question about GST reimbursement. So we're still sorting through. We've requested a ruling from CRA on how exactly the GST can work as the fire truck moves from the town of Swan River to the fire board, because we don't want to accidentally spend the GST and not get it back. So we're sorting through that, which is part of why it looks a little weird, but otherwise it's a fairly standard financial statement. Anything else on the financial statements part?
The only thing is, but Bill, if you're not familiar with this, and then you sit down at a meeting and they start throwing these numbers at you, like myself, I'm lost. Like they just throwing these numbers, and you try and follow the best you can. I mean,
It's tough.
it's tough. It is very tough.
Well, tonight we're gonna run through pages more of them. Once upon a time when I was new here, I was having the same troubles with some audits, and the first year I sat here and I said, you know, this number, I just don't like this number, this just doesn't seem right to me. And I had this lecture of Councillor Gade. We're auditors. We don't make mistakes. You just have to trust us on this. And the second year I said, you know, that number just still doesn't look right to me. And they said, yes, but you know, you don't understand. I said, well, actually I've spent a year looking at why that number's wrong. And then we restated 2 years of financials because it was wrong. So sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, like, always ask questions, because, you know, especially when we have auditors anywhere to explain, they're there for the pleasure of explaining.
Answering questions.
Yep. So you know, never be scared to ask about them and say, what does this mean? Rather than just what are the numbers. Because that night it would go by pretty quick.
Yeah, it did.
So,
There's one nice, number 10, municipal funding
sure.
for 2024. Town of Swan River, 234,000, and municipality Swan Valley less 242,000.
It's number
I
10
thought
there.
it was costing us about 180,000. Does that include some equipment or?
So that includes something more than just the cash, because
Yeah, that's
things
what
were
I'm
getting
wondering.
transferred in. No, there's extras in there.
Once again, just what you and Byron were talking about.
Well, and see, so part of that, because the fire board started, the billing for it started in October, but the board didn't start operating until the 1st of January. So we paid the town some, and we paid the remainder over to fire board in 2023, but the check didn't go until 2024. So it's
That
showing,
might be 2 years or whatever.
It's a year
and
plus a
year
bit.
and or something.
and then also from the town side, you'll see in some of these numbers, there was a joint reserve that was held by the town that we had both paid into, so that reserve was transferred over. And that shows as town of Swan River, but really it was both of us contributing it in the first place, but they wrote the check over.
We maybe didn't have as much in it as they did, right? Or-
Probably not quite as
Yeah,
much,
yeah.
but they had been holding it. Anything else on the financials for fire department? Let's go to 9.2, the Swan Valley Fire Department report. So hopefully you had a chance to preview this a little before the meeting. There's some neat stuff here. So there's some drone photos. My zoom get back here. So this is a report from that fairly large fire we had out south of Durban. So Swan Valley was called for mutual aid. Mostly this is just for council's information. We have referred this to the Manitoba Wildfire Service because of the question of whether or not there was a permit. We understand from Wildfire Service that a permit did exist from them. So they've received a copy of the report but confirmed that there was a permit in place. So there's some observations here. You'll see some of the drone photos of what happened. You can kind of make out how bad of a fire it was. There's also some neat drone shots attached here that show the infrared versions. So this is what firefighters are using live that evening to see where the hot spots were and see where they need to chase more fire, which is kind of a neat thing the department's able to do now. So they have the drone up for that as well. There's some discussion here about enforcement of our burning control bylaw, which will occur in camera. But obviously from the report, and the Coles Notes version of the report is that the permit was in place from Swan Valley West as well, but the permit was not followed. There was not adequate fire guarding. In fact, there was no fire guarding, and there was no supply of water available to fight the fire when it was in a smaller form. So that'll get referred to the in-camera to discuss a little bit more. Anybody have questions or discussion on that part? 9.3, I know this is one that we're all interested in. So attached is a summary. The CAO and I sat through a rather entertaining meeting with both the engineers that did this report, plus some folks from highways. So I know this is a very long report, but the shorter version is many years ago, about 5 years ago, the province finally decided they would do something about Highway 275, which is what we would call ditch road. However, at the time they decided they would have to buy up a bunch of farmland, construct a new creek, run it through the middle of a field, under a road, build some culverts, and they were wondering who was going to pay for all of that. The Swan Valley West at the time, council said this is nuts. This water already goes down the 2nd Avenue ditch. Why can't it just go down the 2nd Avenue ditch where it should go and life would be good? The first highways report into it discounted the 2nd Avenue ditch as a place for the water to go because MIT did not own the ditch. So they said, well, the water obviously couldn't go down it because it's not part of the highway, so they'd have to build a new ditch. There was much complaining from our council about that. They eventually agreed to redo this study. So this is the outcome of that second study, which found miraculously that if you did consider the 2nd Avenue ditch as a route for the water, it was able to move the water to the river perfectly fine, and there is no need to construct a new drainage ditch. So there is a much longer version of this report, believe it or not, that shows the elevation along the entire ditch for the entire ditch road plus 2nd Avenue, that studies the maximum flow, the velocity of the flow, the cubic meters per second of the flow. All of that to say that they are confident that on the 1 in 20-year flood event using 2nd Avenue ditch, there would be water on the shoulder but no water on the pavement of ditch road, and that the water would therefore then drain perfectly fine anyway. In the 1 in 5-year event, there would be no water on the shoulder either. So the capacity is there. They then said if only we had made a decision about what to do, they could have started planning this. And we said, oh. So you'll recall we were promised a meeting in January to discuss this. And then in March, they said that they'd already held the meeting with the town. But then finally had to admit they hadn't actually held the meeting with the town. They just thought they had. So then they held the meeting, finally. And the dear folks from Highways said with a straight face, they've been waiting on us this entire time to make up our mind of what we should do, as compared to us waiting on them. So they have asked that we commit by resolution to having the water go down the 2nd Avenue ditch, because if we only said that was okay, they could have started already. Councillor Neely? It's not. But the town has also agreed to put it down that ditch. So they're passing the same resolution. Highways has it in their 5-year plan. They have not begun designing the work because they didn't know if they could put the water down that ditch or not, because we'd never given them permission yet. So once this permission is granted, they'll put it in the queue to begin doing the design. The design could take a year. Then they have to acquire property all along Highway 275 to widen the road, which could take 2 years. And then they'll put it in the construction queue. So they estimate in approximately 5 years, they may be ready to begin construction on the project. Maybe,
If they widen the road, you have to widen the ditch.
yes. So they're widening, their intention is to change this to regular width lanes, plus paved shoulders, plus full profile ditch on both sides.
Still be one way or Artec?
It will still be the current weight, no RTEC. No.
One way. If it was an Artec, take a lot of traffic off of our roads, eh? Lots of traffic.
We did make that request last year, and they indicate that their surveying shows there's no need for it to be RTEC. Because there's no traffic of that weight on the road.
Well, it comes all the way from Saskatchewan.
Not on that road, it doesn't.
Not who would want to drive.
Don't
a
do 18.
semi- Who wants to drive a semi down that road?
I think you're missing the joke. There's no heavy traffic on that road, so there's no need to make it a heavy traffic road. Because, you know, they're all on a different road. So we do have a resolution tonight to finally make up our mind on where to put the water. Be it resolved, the presentation from Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure, the road upgrade and drainage approval to PR number 275 be approved. Councillor Neely and Councillor Burick. Any further discussion?
There's no, is there any chance of us requesting that Artec weight again or no?
We could, but it'll be denied. This decision's final on that.
Like I say, that would take a lot of traffic off of our roads.
It will cost them twice as much, Brian.
I know, but that's forever, that's
I know.
and it's cost twice as much, that's, this way you got a nice highway, but it's only be one weight. Restrictions every spring, and everybody goes down our municipal roads forever. This way 218 wouldn't be a haul road anymore, or 216 wouldn't be a haul road anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still like to do that request. If we get shut down, we get shut down, but at least
We got shut down. Like, we made the request, they said no.
because they're doing the work anyways, because once it's done, it'll never be upgraded, period.
There's very, very few PR roads that are RTEC weight. It would be an anomaly. Like, it's not a PTH.
PTO, it's not PTO, no, I
So
don't.
they're very unlikely to make a road that's not a PTH into an RTEC route. Unless there's some, you know, like for flood mitigation, they do it down south sometimes, but it would be very, very, very rare. We did speak at length in the meeting about how many people have died or nearly died on that route, and that it should be prioritized. Whether that falls on deaf ears, I assume it will. Anything else? We'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried.
So, okay, it goes in now where, that we accepted the ditch? The
We
water
want-
would on the
But
ditch?
we want them to do something with it.
So then it's gonna, where does it go from there, then it takes?
So the next thing is highways will begin doing an actual design of
Design,
the
okay.
work.
Okay,
The design will show them how much property they need to obtain.
okay,
Then they'll send it over to their property people, who will take a couple of years to buy pieces of farmland if everybody's willing to sell them some. If they're not willing to sell them some, they'd have to begin expropriation.
so I can start campaigning now that in 5 years' time it'll be done?
I wouldn't say that if you wanted to promises you can keep. And the
All
government
my
works
people that live there,
About
but
5
they're gonna get
years.
expropriated.
Expropriated.
Yeah.
Oh,
If the government decided it was the most important thing in the world, it would be done next spring. But they're not gonna do that. They've got so many other projects on the go. You know, when they're saying 5 years, they're probably meaning 5 years before they start. It should be done in one season, but
Too bad they didn't come here around 2010 to 2014.
is there any way, well, I don't know, get the people involved with petitions and that petition, or that wouldn't help?
if you wanna organize such a thing.
No, no, not me, but isn't there some kind of a group in there? A group on that road, I don't know what they call themselves. Isn't there a group in there? No group on that PR?
Unless Jeremy's starting something.
275, is there a group? I thought there was a group.
He wears his rubber boots to bed in the
Disgruntled
spring.
ratepayers, I
He
think.
wears his rubber boots to bed in the spring, just in case.
I thought there was a group on it, some kind of, I don't know. Okay, well, at least we've gone this far now, so,
Very small steps, but it is a step.
yes.
9.4, video fire call reports. These are attached for council's information. We've talked to the fire department. They're going to start filing the reports. We're hoping monthly instead of 6 months. This is kind of a batch them again, but they should start coming more regular. Any questions on any of those? It's mostly just for information if you're curious to see what the department's been up to. We removed the part that showed the names of the firefighters that were at the calls, but that's here and goes into payroll so they can be paid.
I see how they record water, they don't record the extra help for the water they got at that one.
Doesn't look like it.
Didn't, nope. But I see they make sure to record the others. Just a thought.
I hear what you're saying. 9.5, GIS update. So heads of council attended a meeting along with the CAOs, must be a week and a bit ago now, to discuss the general investigative section of the RCMP. It too was an interesting meeting, as they tend to be whenever we're all together. So we had the inspector, which is in charge of the Western District here. We had an officer from Porters of Perry, GIS here as well. I'm not entirely sure why he was here, but he drove all the way here from Portage and then drove all the way back for a 1 hour meeting. Hopefully he had some other business. We have attached the information they gave us there. So they were asking the group what we wanted them to do. And we said, we'd like you to go arrest some drug dealers, please. And they said, oh, that sounds like a great idea. How that was news, I don't know. They were beginning the process of advertising for the first officer. So some miserable person at the meeting said, I'd just like to understand. We were promised 12 months. When we said yes to this in June, and we signed the paperwork, and we gave it to you, you said 12 months, at the most, we would have a functional GIS unit. So it's now 2 weeks from June. Could you explain to me how we don't yet have a functional GIS unit? And there is no answer to that, except that they don't seem to be counting from June. They seem to be counting from October, and thinking that October would be the 1 year anniversary of them being told to have the GIS unit, and they'll have it ready before then. So I have probably pushed our neighbor as hard as I can push our neighbor for information on why the date has such a large discrepancy to it, without causing a war with our neighbor. So we'll probably have to leave it. But it certainly appears like where we think this was all signed and sealed in June, they think it was in October. And there's no particularly publicly available reason why that is. Be that as it may, they're moving forward with the unit. So the first thing they're advertising is the corporal. The RCMP is a very interesting organization. So they too said they waited to have this meeting with us to see if it was okay to start advertising for the officers. They've been in planning for this meeting with us for 2 months. They've been working out which date they could come. So for 2 months, they apparently stopped the process, waiting to come here to sit down with us and ask, is it okay to start hiring people? To which we said, yes, it is. And they said, oh, well, in that case, we'll start Monday. So on Monday, they didn't actually advertise for the first officer. They put the advertisement for the first officer into the queue, the internal RCMP queue of to be advertised. But currently there's a 5 to 6 week wait for the RCMP to post job postings nationally, because they have a policy, they only post so many openings per week. And because there's so many openings and so many people waiting to post them, it will be 5 to 6 weeks before the opening's posted. So sometimes toward the end of June, the opening will actually get posted. They then expect it could be a few weeks as they sort through candidates, because there's some time for people to apply. They have to decide at that point if they're moving an officer here laterally from another detachment someplace else that's already a corporal. If they are, then they would have to go through that paperwork and bring them here. If they can't find a lateral move that's already a corporal, they would have to promote someone to be a corporal, which would be someone that is in line for the next promotion that also wanted the job. If they have to do that, they say it could take a few extra weeks of paperwork. Once they hire that person and they have come here, then they intend to advertise the two constable positions for the GIS unit. Those two will then go into the 5 to 6 week queue for the advertisements to come out. I don't make this stuff up. So, you know, if you're gainfully employed and selling drugs, you got at least like 6 to 8 weeks left before the first person's here to solve that problem. And probably 3 months before all three of them are here to solve the problem. But they are coming. Now, the good news is we're not being billed for it right now. See how they're not here.
Well, did we not pay them some?
We have not paid them a dime yet. We haven't budgeted, but we've never released any money.
Okay.
And we won't until they will invoice us quarterly, and it will be only for what's working. So when they have this first one hired, then there'll actually be some invoicing. And then the invoicing will become more when they have the 3 hired. It is disappointing.
It is.
I just, sometimes, like,
Maybe
ask Kristi, I have a hard time being polite sometimes.
by fall, you're thinking?
Maybe by fall, by October, because to them that's the 1 year anniversary. So for sure by October it'll be up and running.
I guess it'll be here fast enough.
They also provided us a list of really bad people. So this is their quarterly report, I think, of bad people. They took the names out, but it's attached here. So the number 1 bad person in Western Manitoba resides in St. Rose. The number 5 bad person in all of Manitoba resides in Swan River. Then if you look into the secondary list of generally bad people, numbers 1, 3, 4, and 8 of the top 13 reside in Swan River.
We're right up there.
So they said it would be really good if we had a GIS unit here because we could do better on this. We discussed measurables, about reporting, the reporting we want to see. We talked about we want to see media releases every time they pursue someone with the GIS unit so we can see the value we're getting and we can show people the value. They warn that our crime statistics are likely to go way up once GIS begins operating because they'll be taking and actually dealing with calls where so many people now don't call anymore because they think it's hopeless. They're expecting, the calls to go up measurably for thefts and for drug-related offenses. So they say, please don't penalize us when you see it looks like crime explodes. What you're really going to be seeing is all the crime actually being reported and hopefully some more of it being dealt with. We did talk in Portage. I believe the operation's over now, so it's probably for public consumption. They were about to conduct a retail theft initiative there. They were looking at perhaps maybe doing similar things here once they're established. Any questions or discussion on the RCMP? Let's go to 9.6. This is the one that we've bounced along a few times. I know Councillor Blosha has a few thoughts to share on it. I'm hoping other people have kind of thought about it. What we're discussing here, this is the rural version of it. We don't have the urban one attached tonight. But we're generally discussing what changes we wish to look at making, if any, to this bylaw. This is the nuisance, derelict, abandoned, and unsightly property bylaw. To try and get this to a spot where we feel comfortable with what it says so that bylaw can actually enforce this without us always saying, no, not that. So we actually have a rule that is what we want it to be for our municipality. Councillor Blosha, you want to lead us off with some of your thoughts?
No, it was actually the other one that was on here that I
Oh,
was looking at. It wasn't this
The
one.
urban one?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but what I took from the urban one that you wanted to put it all in one, and I understand that, but the urban one is totally nothing. Like, yeah, this isn't the one. Honestly, the one on the last two was the other one,
Okay.
not this one.
How do you feel about this one? Is
Well,
there anything in here that we don't like? This is the more rural one.
I went over it quickly.
Okay.
I
So
didn't
the
see
goal is,
anything-
like right now, we have the old one from Benito, the old one from the Arm of Swan River.
I know. and
So the goal is to make one, but not one size fits all. We don't have to make a rule that applies everywhere, but figure out, ideally urban areas versus rural. So Pot and Dive would be an urban area, Kendall may be an urban area, Benito certainly, but then the more rural areas, what is it we actually want in both of those places? So the rules that we think are the right rules. Because we want to, ultimately we want something that we can say, this is what our council says, not this is what some other council said, and we don't actually believe in all these rules.
Well, I didn't see anything wrong with anything in here.
Okay, so the rural one's fairly good.
Well, the
It's just the
rural one
urban
is
one
fairly
needs
good.
some
There might be
work.
It's the urban one that
That's pretty tight.
yeah.
And go ahead.
Excuse me. 233, the removal of topsoil.
Yes.
That means what?
Is this so? You're talking about this part of the first page?
I'm,
I think so.
yeah, bylaw.
So the way they wrote this is they quoted the Municipal Act into it. So the whole first 2 pages aren't actually rules. They're just things we can make rules on.
Oh, okay.
So we can make a rule on the removal of topsoil, but I don't think there's anything in here that actually makes a rule on it.
No, there isn't. The rules are down lower.
It's kind of an older way of doing the bylaws, because when you do this, as the Municipal Act gets updated, your bylaw gets invalidated. So normally you wouldn't put the whole Municipal Act in it. A newer one would just start out with what are the rules, not
Okay.
what we can make rules on. The things in here that have been kind of heartburn before relate, I think, to the vehicles a little bit. Does this one still have the
Yeah, this one still
vehicles?
has that in the
Yeah.
D, but some people, that's their business to have those vehicles on the. It says auto dealerships. They're not
Yeah,
really a
automotive
dealership.
dealership, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
parts place, you know.
Because the way this is written is any unlicensed vehicle is illegal
Yeah, and it's
in a
not
rural area.
like
which
we have to.
There's a
change
lot of
that.
unlicensed vehicles in a rural
lot of
area.
criminals up there.
Yeah, like it doesn't make,
Yeah,
a lot of sense.
that D needs to be changed. Definitely.
I'm not sure that there's any of us that aren't currently violating that ourselves. You know,
Might be
like,
a 1971 Mustang Mach 1 in immaculate condition, but he doesn't have a license on it, so he can
Well,
hold it away.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Unless you bring that to mind.
My police.
so if this is mostly good, what we will set upon here is we will start to make an aggregate bylaw that tries to combine the both of them and then get us to a point where we have something to start discussing actual changes. We just want that feedback first. So I think we kind of have that feedback. If anybody else comes up with more though, if you could send it to the CAO so that she has that, and we'll start as time allows working through this to try and get to a bylaw that could replace both of these and kind of.
I'm trying to remember whether we've ever enforced.
Well, and this is where the trouble comes, right? So we have some properties that probably should have some enforcement. Some things that are so far out of hand that it's crazy. But to go there and say, hey, then they say, well, why haven't you enforced this on the other ones? Look at the letter of this. This says anyone with any unregistered vehicle is breaking the law. Well, they can name us 100 places.
Yeah.
And then how do we say, well, it's okay to do it here, but we're not going to mention it there? It's not very fair, right? We need rules that we actually believe in. And if we don't believe in them, then we shouldn't have them. Okay, we'll leave it there for tonight. We'll get to the far more interesting 9-7 if everyone's okay with that. So tonight, we have the Go ahead.
It sounds, I can hear good now, or
No.
whatever, so you can, like,
Not so much with it on though? No? Okay. Do you want to just go turn it off? We'll turn it off so it doesn't turn on again for a while. So tonight we have two documents in front of council. The white one is publicly posted on our agenda tonight. The other one is not publicly posted because it's for council. So we're going to start with the white one, and then we'll work our way towards that second document. So we did not ask the auditors to come tonight, partly because of what Councillor Zbirun was talking about before. They tend to just spiel off a bunch of numbers, and we didn't feel it was worth having them drive here from Brandon to just spiel off a bunch of numbers that probably weren't going to make a lot of sense anyway. So we did have a conversation with them earlier. I've got a few things highlighted in here to go over with council. So I'll go through those, but stop anywhere along the line you want, and we can discuss it further. So this is the audit for the year ending December 2022. Getting into the flip one page over, I guess we'll call that page 3, is the opinion. So in our opinion, except for the possible effects of the matter described in the basis for qualified opinion paragraph, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of the municipality as of December 31st. So that is not a paragraph you'll see very often when we review these audits. That is a paragraph indicating this is not a clean audit. We were unable to audit the books for 2022 in a fashion that the auditor felt that they could say everything was right. So the qualified opinion, we were unable to satisfy ourselves concerning inventory quantity by physical measurement or alternative means. Accordingly, we were unable to determine whether any adjustments might have been necessary in respect of inventories, expenses, accumulated surplus, changes in net financial assets, and cash flows. This relates to the gravel inventory at the end of 2022. They could not prove that the inventory numbers were anywhere near correct for the gravel. So while gravel inventory is showing here, you'll see later in it about $100,000 of gravel is showing on the ground at the end of 2022. The auditors were unable to prove it existed. So they have given us a qualified opinion as a result. They're probably right in that. So moving ahead a little bit, we will start into actual numbered pages. We'll head to page number 6. So this is the consolidated statement of financial position. So we see both the 2022 year on the left, 2021 on the right. So you notice our cash and temporary investments fell in the 2022 year by approximately $1 million. Our accounts receivable went up by about $300,000. When you get down to the net financial assets partway down the page, you'll see that in 2021 it was 3.78 million assets. In 2022 we were down to 3.12 million in assets. However, our accumulated surplus went up. The reason for that is because our cash was converted into non-financial assets, primarily capital assets, being a new fire hall and being fire trucks in that fire hall. So this is the year that Thunder West was constructed, so a lot of cash was used to purchase actual things. So that's why the cash amount has gone down by $1 million, and the things amount has gone up by about $1 million. So we bought a building, we bought some stuff, which made it so we have less cash, but overall, we do have more assets than we used to have if you count the buildings. Going into page 7, look at some revenue numbers there and the differences. You'll notice the water and sewer revenue. The 2022 budget provided for $182,000 of revenue. We actually only realized about $99,000 of water and sewer revenue. The grants in the province of Manitoba had been budgeted for $253,000. The province actually provided $381,000 of grants that year, so we received more money than we had expected. That caused our total revenue to be higher than was expected, even though there was a shortfall in the water and sewer. Down towards the bottom of the page, third from the bottom, annual surplus or deficit. So you'll see that we had budgeted in 2022 a deficit of $133,000. We finished the year with a surplus of $405,301. This is the adjusted numbers according to public sector accounting practices, the PSAP rules. Later in the document, you'll see the actual cash budget that we are used to seeing here. So when they did this original budget, the total at the bottom was 0, like we're used to. But because of the adjustments, it actually was a $133,000 loss. Moving to page 8, again, we see that change in net financial assets. So we had budgeted in 2022 to lose $1.4 million. We actually only lost $660,000. This is of actual cash that's no longer in the bank. So we pulled back on quite a few things towards the end of that year as the council changed, and were able to save some money, which made a substantial difference to what had been budgeted and brought down what would have been otherwise a larger loss. Into page 9, there's not a lot of interesting stuff there. It's more just a restating of that, showing us again the inventories that are in there. Heading to page 10, we get into the notes to the financial statements. So under 2, the significant accounting policies, we are using public sector accounting board policies. So those are specific to government entities like ourselves that regulate how we report on our assets. So again, that's to do with when we buy something that's tangible, how we report that. If we keep going all the way now until page 14. Under number 3 are cash and temporary investments. So again, this is just restating what we saw in the start. So in 2021, all of our cash together, all of the reserves, all cash money we had was $4.949 million. At the end of 2022, that had dropped to $3.928 million. So again, about that $1 million and change. Under number 4, accounts receivable, you'll see the taxes on rolls increased by $150,000 year over year. So those are folks that had not paid their taxes at the end of the year that were outstanding. Obviously that was in COVID times, so there was still some folks that were a little behind on paying. Government grants increased substantially in what was receivable, so it's showing that we were to receive grants they hadn't paid out yet. And we had quite a lot more money due from other governments. So that's why you see our accounts receivable jumping from $555,000 to $870,000 roughly, which means the money just wasn't here yet. If that money, more of it had been received, there would have been less of a cash loss. Into page 15, under number 6, inventories. This is our aggregate, third line down for inventories for use. In 2021, it shows that we had $152,000 of gravel at the end of the year. In 2022, we're showing $106,000 worth of gravel. We don't believe that number is accurate, and that's why there's the basis for the qualified opinion. We believe the actual amount of gravel at the end of 2022 was very, very much less than that. But there's some uncertainty because we had begun crushing. So Cooks was crushing at the time, and there just isn't an accurate way to judge what there was. So that's the number that the auditors ended up using, but they flagged it as they don't think it's necessarily right. Into number 8, operating landfill site. This is the Benito landfill, a class 3 landfill. You'll see the estimated closure costs are at $116,000. That's the estimate for what it would cost if we stopped operating that landfill today. I'm here to tell you that simply cannot be right. We spent that much closing the Durbin landfill, and it's a much smaller site. So while this is how they've calculated it, if we were to close that landfill, there is no way we would do it for that price. It would be at least 3 times that much. The reason it's here is we have to account for having some money set aside for it. So we have a discount rate of 4% a year. We claim to have 23 years left at that landfill site. So if we operated it for another 23 years, we would have saved up that $116,000 to close it. At some point, that will catch up to us, and it will be recalculated, and they will realize the cost to close it is much higher, and we'll then have a deficit for not having saved enough for that landfill. But at the moment, that is the current way the calculations are done, and we're still okay. The other landfill sites show here, for the one that is Minnetonka's Bozeman, the Town of Swan River one, they're all included in our statements as well. We go all the way now to page 18. Note number 15, public sector compensation disclosure. So in 2022, the amount was $75,000. That changes from year to year. So we report on any employee that makes more than $75,000. We had two. Mr. Webb made $101,010. Mr. Whitekey made $77,590. We also disclose the earnings of all council members. They're all listed there. I won't bore you by reading them all, but they are all included. Because it was an election year, there's far more councillors than you'd expect because the entire year worth of councillors is included in the statements. Trust funds is not a big thing. We have the Cemetery Trust and the Recreation Trust. Those just kind of sit along. We keep moving now until page 23, which is Schedule 3. As we go through these schedules, these are just the more detailed versions of how we got those first numbers. What's interesting here on page 23 is the fire protective services. So in 2021, we spent about $188,000. In 2022, it was $434,000. So again, that relates to the Thunder West Department. Many of those are one-time charges. So that's stuff that was spent in that year and then won't necessarily recur. A little further down the page in environmental health services, waste collection and disposal, you'll see that it was cut drastically. In 21, it was $261,000. In 22, it fell to $126,000. So that relates to some of the changes in recycling, particularly in the Benito area, that saved a little money, but also some changes just in the overall how things were being done. I think some of that in the 2021 year likely relates to the Durban landfill. Is part of why it was higher in that year. Turning the page into page number 24, Schedule 3, swimming pools and beaches, which is about the third line down. So in 2022, we spent $77,737 on a swimming pool. You can guess which one it was, which was a little up from $53,000 the year before. And then you also see some other amounts in there. I just thought that one was worth drawing your attention to because that has changed since 22, obviously, as we got into renegotiations with the town of Swan River. There are several pages here of, again, split out various expenses. I'm not going to read them all to you because you probably find it boring, but let's head to, please don't have a page number. So Schedule 6. Is where we're going. This is the reserve fund balances. The balances contained in this report are accurate to the end of December 2022. When we look at our reserve fund balances from Munisoft, they are not necessarily accurate. Because of the way Munisoft works, we cannot put changes into Munisoft that are more than 2 years old. So because this is now audited and ready to go, we have no ability to go into 2022 to update these numbers. So the flow-through numbers year after year are not correct. As we catch up the audited statements, they will become correct. But right now, this is what there was in there as of the end of 2022. Most of them are similar, but there's some that have some small changes. So of interesting note ones, the general reserve at the end of the year was about $350,000. Landfill liabilities, about $50,000, about $105,000 for paved roads. Machinery replacement was at $410,000, but we've bought some equipment since then, so don't be too surprised that's changed. Bridge replacement was at $255,000. On to the next page, we have $978 set aside for library expansion, which we probably could at some point close that reserve because I don't know if they're planning on expanding again. Grain bearing roads had about $25,000 in it, flood control about $42,000. The LUD paved road reserve had $37,000 in it. Building reserve, so that is for us to build some building someday, $368,000. Airport reserve had $34,000 in it, which doesn't necessarily have a home yet either, but is held there in case someday the airport needs a lot of money for a runway or something. That's part of our payment for it. Our vested sick leave reserve is $15. Again, we may look into closing that at some point. We get to a little bit more interesting ones. The Benito General Reserve, $199,700. Now in 2023, we spent $100,000 of that. So the next statements will show that going down. But at the end of 2022, there was almost $200,000 in the Benito Reserve, $60,000 in the Machinery Reserve, and again, we then bought a garbage truck since then, so that'll come out. Benito gas tax, $143,000. The Swan River Gas Tax Reserve is probably the most interesting. So we have had to restate some of our filings that were filed back in 2022 for the gas tax. It is accurate that we removed $1,094,735 from the gas tax fund. When we reported that to the province of Manitoba, it was misreported on what it was spent on. We indicated that it was spent on the Whitmire Bridge and the, what's the other one? Crestview Bridge. The numbers we reported spending on those bridges were higher than what we actually spent. The rest of the money was actually spent on the fire hall and fire trucks. So updated filings are going to the province. It's the same number. It was just what was in the filing was incorrect. So that is being amended. At the end of 2022, we had $341,959 in the gas tax fund. So we've added to it since then, but that's the actual number of what was left after Thunder West was built and the money was spent on fire trucks. That was what was left.
Have we budgeted to spend some of that this year or something?
The gas tax we budgeted for Benito Fire Hall.
Right.
So overall, all of our reserves to the end of the year were $2.5 million. Page number 32, that's Schedule 7. This is the schedule of LUD operations for Benito. So in 2022, this represented the final year of the previous method of budgeting for the LUD. So a few notes of interest. The LUD in that year spent $118,000 on road and street maintenance, which was down a little bit from what had been budgeted. Overall, the LUD had budgeted to have a net revenue of $29,000, which would then have disappeared into reserves. What actually happened was the revenue was $40,034. Of that, $29,726 went to reserves, and a $10,308 surplus was not transferred to reserve. So there is an unexpended balance for the LUD. That does not show in their reserve amount. That amount is in the general bank account. So at the beginning of the year it was $56,581. By the end of the year, the LUD had $66,889 of cash in the general bank account, not in a reserve account. Going to page 34, that's Schedule 9. This is the schedule used by the Public Utilities Board. So this is stated as the PUB requires water utilities to be stated. So you'll note in the budget we had expected $115,000 of revenue. We actually only got $93,203 of revenue. But we had also expected a $60,000 capital grant from the government that did not materialize. That was somewhat based upon the idea of spending a lot of money doing upgrading and getting 50% of it back. In page 35, the expenses, you'll see that we had budgeted to spend $73,000 on administration time to run the water utility in 2022. So when the council changed, there were some changes to the accounting practices. So that ended up only expending $42,263, which basically is the first part of the year. $42,000 was spent on administration fees for the utility. Purification had been planned to expend $180,000. That actually only spent $22,749. Transmission and distribution had been budgeted for $36,000. It was cut to an actual spending of $13,557. Under sewer general, collection costs had been budgeted for $14,000. $6,400 was spent. Treatment and disposal was budgeted for $5,000. We overspent that to about $7,800. Lift station was $11,000. That came down to spending about $4,400. Total expenses had been budgeted to be $351,431 for utility, which would have had an operating deficit that year for the utility of $169,431. Actual expenses were $125,746 for a deficit of only $13,606, which makes a huge difference, as you can imagine, to the water rates in Benito to have not had that massive deficit. So the deficit did move forward into our fund surplus. It was taken out of the surplus funds. In utility land, those surplus funds is basically the value of the pipes in the ground. It's not that there's any of that money sitting around. That will be reported to the Public Utilities Board shortly for their perusal. We had many discussions with them about what that number was going to be, and that is within the range of what we had promised them was probably happening with the utility. The next couple pages are not so interesting. The last page, Schedule 14. This page is a bit of a problem. So this is the only place in this entire financial statement that you see the budget the way we see the budget. When we budget here, we budget cash only. So we look to take in enough money from taxes that every bill we pay is paid. After that, there's a bunch of changes made, and that relates to, again, we buy a thing that has value to it, we depreciate it, and it makes it look like we didn't spend all that money because we haven't expensed it all yet. As a cash budget basis, in 2022, the Municipality of Swan Valley West ran a deficit of $71,975, which is illegal under the Municipal Act. We will be reporting that to the province tomorrow as these statements are approved. We will be required to pay that from our accumulated surplus to bring ourselves into compliance, which, because it's so many years since then already, that's simply a matter of putting the paperwork and signing it at the bottom. No money will actually change hands. It stays in our bank account, but we will then reduce that surplus number by that amount so that it was a zero balance. Otherwise, we're required to add that to taxes in 2023, but it's a little too late for that. So it'll be paid out of surplus. There's the whole list of adjustments there where we eliminate the interfund transfers, the transfers to reserve, the transfers back in, all of that comes out, which gets us to a public sector accounting balance of a surplus of $432,175. The province does not care about the bottom number, they care only about the top one. So they will say, why was this? We will say, unexplained, things came up, and we'll pay it off. We do have enough money in that general reserve to pay it, so it won't be a problem of being insolvent. That's the 10-minute version of the financial statements.
I was going to say, can you repeat that? I think I lost it.
Any questions on part one?
You did very well. You got a wealth of knowledge. You must have studied that for a long time.
Turned out not too bad considering what all happened in 2022.
It was an interesting year. It's not as bad as it could be.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
So let's move to part two. Now, this is not provided publicly. Council will note there's a note at the end of it that says this report is intended solely for the use of council, management, and others within the municipality and should not be used for other purposes. So because of that, we haven't provided the public document, but we are going to refer to it extensively in this meeting, and what we refer to in public becomes public as we do it. So into page number 2, which is flipped over one time, some notes here. So our final materiality for the year was set at $160,000. That was up from $81,000 the year prior. What materiality refers to is the amount we have to set to say that we didn't make any glaring mistakes. So any mistake less than $160,000 in these financial statements is still considered a clean audit. The year before, any mistake more than $81,000 would have been considered a clean audit. So it gives you some view of how much more the number had to be to make this look like there were no major mistakes. It indicates that the audit cannot be relied upon to detect all instances of fraud, but very specifically to that year, I know a lot of people have had questions, the auditors did not detect any instances of fraud or suspected fraud during the course of their audit. They identified non-compliance with Schedule 14 for the Municipal Act because of the general operating deficit of $71,975. No other non-compliance with the laws of Manitoba were noted during the audit. Moving on, let's go to page number 5. So this is Appendix A, significant deficiencies noted in the internal controls of the municipality. These are things that the auditors found we were not doing well and must be improved. They found that customers have balances on accounts receivable that have been past due since 2017, which has impacted the municipality's cash flows, and that we should deal with that. Either we should deem them uncollectible or we should take actions to move them to taxes and collect the monies so they're not outstanding. During the testament of reimbursement expenses, they noticed a councillor's expense claim was not approved before payment being issued. They say that creates a self-review threat in determining the appropriateness of expenses submitted by council for reimbursement. They say we must tighten that up. The way they do these audits is they don't check every single piece of paper. They come here for a day. They randomly ask the staff for things. So they'll say, show us the councillor expense report for the 30th week of 2022. They go grab it, bring them the paper. They look through it. If it's fine, good. If it's not fine, they want another one. And as long as they get to a fine one, then they look at how many were bad before they got there. So this means at least one of them had not been pre-approved. This is why you've already seen us tightening up on having you sign your statements, because part of this issue is they were not being signed appropriately. So you had never sworn to your expenses, which is then part of the process of paying them.
Years ago,
we used to, always used to sign the sheet and give it back.
Yeah.
The auditors found that the meetings of the board meetings of the LUD and the regular council were not always available. There were issues with recovering the initial LUD board meetings. The meetings were not on file consistently being signed, which is why we spent an awful lot of time going through minutes. We've seen some of that here where we've looked at those minutes and approved them for signing. Those have been caught up. They note that the documentation is required to prove that what council says to be done is actually happening. And if we don't have signed resolutions and signed minutes, there's no proof of needing to be done. We've tightened that up quite a bit for council. Work continues to tighten that up for the LUD. There's some work to be done there on minutes yet. Into page number 7, check approvals. During the course of the audit, we noticed that checks for LUD expenditures are not being reviewed and approved by the LUD committee. Say proper approval and significant financial decisions helps ensure these issues have been properly authorized. So, specific to this issue, this is the final year of how the LUD was doing things. It's changed after that. So there'll be substantial changes to this because it's now done in a different way. At the time, it was correct. The LUD was not approving their expenditures. In fact, many times they were actually at odds with their expenditures, and the paperwork reflected that, and they weren't always passing approvals for things that they didn't think should have been charged to them. During the course of the audit, the wage rate paid to an employee was unable to be verified as there was no resolution by council or signed employment agreement. This impacts things we've done in just the last few months. It's recommended council pass a resolution approving the union classification for each employee, and any future changes to union classification for non-union employees, there should be a signed agreement with the starting wage, and there should be a resolution anytime a wage is changed for any of the employees. Rather than us just giving direction to staff, it should be in writing. Timesheet reviews. During the course of the audit, it was noted not all timesheets have been approved by a supervisor. Signed timesheets are important, as you can imagine, because that helps verify the hours that they were actually correct. We will discuss in camera a timesheet issue that has come up in the past few days. During the course of the audit, it was noted that bylaws are not being signed. As you can imagine, signed bylaws are an important part of making bylaws legal. We have dealt with that already here in the last few months, so those bylaws have been signed with the approval of council. During the course of the audit, it was noted a portion of the mileage was incorrectly being included in employees' taxable income on their T4 slips. Because of that, sometimes when they're paid mileage, that was income instead of a reimbursement. You'll recall we reissued council's T4 slips a couple months ago because of that finding. So that has been resolved already and will be resolved going forward. Many of these findings we were aware of as this audit went on, and we were making corrections. So this is not all news to us. This is stuff that we have been trying to fix since they brought it up. During the course of the audit, it was noted that timesheets were not maintained for Deborah Schaefer. This can result in inappropriately paying the employee as hours worked cannot be verified due to a lack of records. That was the only employee that did not have timesheets. Appendix B into page 10, summary of significant differences. So you'll see they found a $38,000 bad debt on roll 287260. Eagle-eyed people that have been here a while will recognize that as the tax bill for the property that sits on Crown land that we can't sell. That cabin thing up there, we must deal with that. That will come forward to council at some point with a recommendation. They found some utility revenue errors of $47,000. Those two combined together, some canceled out the others. which kept us in the $160,000 limit we set. There's a letter here. This again is much the same as we saw in the initial audit. Again, providing the opinion that with the exception of the loss of money, we had done everything correctly. Towards the very end, page 15, is the federal gas tax revenue annual expenditure report. This shows that since the beginning of gas tax, we've collected $2.882 million from the gas tax fund. At the beginning of that year, we had 1.407 unspent. We spent 1.094 million. Unspent fund balance at the end of the year was $485,898. So that is how much gas tax is actually available at the end of that year. You'll notice that the fund has more cash in it than it's supposed to at the end of the year. It actually has $676,062. At some point, money had not been transferred to the general fund that should have been. So there's $269,748 of money left in the gas tax physical bank account that shouldn't be there. And then the funding has not all necessarily been received at the end of the year. When we file these audited financial statements tomorrow, that will enable us to collect the outstanding gas tax for the year that's been held back. So we'll receive a check show up fairly shortly thereafter, paying for that. Are there questions on the findings report?
This gas tax, that doesn't come back till after the audit every year?
That's right.
Or every time we get a gas tax
If you
payment,
stay,
you have to have your audited financial statement from the previous year.
yes,
So we're always 2 or 3 years behind.
I think you have 1 year grace, but because we're only finishing 22 and it's now 25, we've run out of grace. So when we file this,
we
we'll get a
got
check.
money coming yet, but
We do.
we gotta get this done first before we get our money.
Correct.
Okay.
We'll get about $200,000 when we file this report. And then when we, the auditors have indicated, by the way, they're ready to begin the 2023 year as early as this week.
So we won't get our 2023 federal gas tax payment until we get our 2023 audited financial. So we got 23 and 24.
I think we have 2 years held right
Coming,
now. Yeah. So there's money to come.
So we got $500,000 plus something. So that's about $1 million more likely.
In speaking to the auditors, this was a very rough year to get through. There's been a lot of staff turnover. You know, as this audit was done, most of the staff that had been here for the majority of that year were no longer here. So there was an awful lot of work done by the staff, and the auditor was commending them earlier today for the work they had done. They said they found our staff extremely easy to work with. They also mentioned that the staff had made a lot of steps already to correct these deficiencies in the coming years to make the 2023 and 2024 audit a lot better, and 2025 better yet. So they are ready to begin the 2023. We have expressed our urgency of having it and the 24 audit done yet this year to get us back to being on track for the audits being caught up, which would release the rest of the gas tax money as well. So we have a resolution tonight. Be it resolved that the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2022, prepared by MNP LLP accounting firm, be received and approved as presented. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk and Councillor Neely.
No, but he
Oh, you want to? Okay, Councillor McGregor instead. Any further discussion on the audit tonight? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Let's go to correspondence. We have a bunch tonight. 10-1, Parkland Caucus. I received an email from the mayor of the town of Swan River addressed to Reeve and Council, so it's included tonight for Council to review. They've been speaking about having a Parkland Caucus where we get together as a region to discuss things. He was looking for our thoughts on this. He says many have asked who attends. This is where discussion begins. Not all members need to attend all the time. Head of council should, or a deputy, but any councillor who has an understanding of a topic that's going to be discussed should attend. Also who hosts. He feels it should be floating around, hosted in different places, talking about 2, 3, or 4 times a year. It all depends. He wants us to provide thoughts. Would we be interested in participating in meetings of the Parkland region to kind of share ideas and topics with others?
Be nice to share, but if that's as far as it goes, I guess what does it?
Okay, other thoughts? I have to email them back what we think, so.
I mean, it's nice to get together and discuss things and share things, but I mean, how far does it go after that?
Sort of like a mini convention, I guess.
I can certainly, I'll express it to them that way, you know, we like the idea of getting together, will it accomplish anything?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we want to see it accomplish
That's
things.
what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay,
I'd say it's a good idea,
I
but it's
guess
going to be accomplished.
you can lobby the provincial government if everybody gets together, stuff like that, you know.
okay, any other
And
thoughts?
there's no such thing as too much knowledge, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so I'll tell them we're generally agreeable, we just want to make sure that it's time well spent.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. 10.2, grad advertisement. Each year we tend to run an advertisement in the Star and Times congratulating graduates. A copy of that advertisement from last year is attached to the agenda. Staff is looking for direction from council on whether you wish to run the advertisement again this year. I see a few people nodding. Does anyone wish to speak against it?
We gotta change the year.
We will change the year.
Note that.
If everyone's fine with it, it fits within the advertising budget, so we'll just give staff direction to go ahead.
It's a nice one.
10.3, there's an offer on the Kenmore rink. This is in correspondence. We're going to refer this to in camera for further discussion. You'll note the date is July 2nd, 2024 on the letter. It's not a current letter, but it is now attached to the agenda. 10.4, Many Islands Pipeline Inspection. Many Island Pipelines, that you may know as Sask Energy, will be conducting pipeline inspections through the valley and will be flaring natural gas as a result. You may have seen video of that from Kenora where they were doing it the other day. So they will be doing that at the line and meter station south of Benito. That's right, the junction of 49 and 83. They'll be there for a day or two. They have notified emergency services, so if you have people calling to say, we think the gas place has exploded, there's a huge flame, that's probably them out there doing their thing. And when they do it, they have emergency vehicles of theirs parked there with lights, so it's usually pretty apparent it's a meant to happen thing, but just for council's information, it's there. 10.5, I believe this is 2.5 years in the making. Picture of the Benito office building with the flag poles repaired and the flags installed. So that has been accomplished. We thank the lead
Somebody
hand and
hanging
the
from
public
the
works staff.
poles or what?
They've broken off over time. The flags had become so rotten that they were gross, but it unfortunately took this long to get it fixed. Pictures also attached to the flags at the Swan River office, which have had the poles repaired after they broke as well. Let's move to committee reports. We'll start with Councillor Burick.
Oh, my goodness. How much time do I have?
How much does he like?
Not much, but it is full.
Yeah. Well, I have no committees to report on. I'd just like to have a little bit of communication here. 5th grader, how's it coming along?
5th grade parts are on order. We're waiting for updates.
Still nothing repaired then?
Not yet.
Okay. Skid steer.
Skid steer, insurance agents, the adjuster is finalizing plans for how to review the skid steer. There had been discussion of hauling it to Winnipeg. The current leaning is towards them inspecting it in Swan River. We still do not have written confirmation they're going to cover the skid steer. They are figuring out the loss and the value of the loss in the meantime, while the insurer determines whether or not we can find the coverage. But obviously, we're still leaning towards there is some coverage, or we wouldn't be down this path. So fingers crossed, but nothing
So how
official.
long do you think it's gonna take?
At least a couple more weeks.
We're without a machine, okay, okay. Who's running our backhoe, like with the big scrubber? Anybody's running, it's just sitting idle?
So we did do some scrubbing with one of the operators, it's a mower operator. They returned, they were doing a little bit, but they've also been doing a lot of culvert cleaning with it as the roads are getting flooded.
Okay,
But they were going to do some scrubbing.
Okay, about 2 years ago, I had a ditch cleaning project and the watershed did a survey on it. Still nothing, we haven't done anything. Is there any chance this summer I can get it done?
Which ditch cleaning project?
218 and 163, that'd be by Chad Halishik's corner there.
Okay, do you know if it was permitted?
It was permit, yeah, from Watershed.
Watershed can't issue a permit.
They'll give us a license to do it.
They can't issue, like, they could do the survey,
Yeah.
but we'd have to still get a license from
I
Mr.
wonder if
Tomsky.
Pat, I wonder if Pat did that.
Okay, can you?
Can you check that?
We'll check it.
It was on 163 and 218.
Okay,
Okay, what are we deciding on crowning roads in Ward 6, removing the crown? I know we talked a little bit before the meeting, but I got gravel on the roads now, so where are we going with that?
so the medium version, last year we talked about doing this, but no road was ever selected.
Okay,
So this year we talked about it at several meetings. We asked several times for a road to be selected. We never as a council agreed upon a road. So then we directed Public Works staff to find a road themselves. They found a couple roads based on where they had received the most complaints. One of those roads is where the Crown had removed an oil pan from a vehicle that was driving down the road because the Crown was so high. So they then went to work and have been decrowning. The first road they did, they just cut the crown and laid it to the side. The next road they were doing, they were cutting the crown and pulling the shoulders onto the road to see what the difference would be. Both of them are probably going to be somewhat disasters, but we're going to do it and then see how hard it is to fix them, to make them roads again.
would that mulcher have come in handy if it was working?
You know, those roads are so soft at this point. Like I went out there with a spade and I could dig 2 feet deep in your road with a spade, and you shouldn't be able to do that. And there was
Ruled by Brian's?
yeah, south of Brian's, there was maybe an inch of gravel in the crown. Dug through that, dug 2 feet down the road just with a spade. Didn't have anything, no sledgehammer, just dug a hole in the road, 2 feet deep. After the 1 inch of gravel, all there was black dirt all the way down. The
Oh.
spade, the shoulders, you could just stick the spade in, it would go as far as you wanted into the shoulder.
He keeps pulling the shoulder in all the time, so
There's no
probably-
road.
There's probably 8 inches of gravel in the middle, but the shoulder's got nothing.
There was less than an inch of gravel in the middle.
Yeah.
There's nothing, like that road is pure black dirt with just a little bit of gravel on top. I can't imagine how when it's wet you can even drive on it. It's just a disaster.
Like south of Brian's or
South
north?
of Brian's. North was worse.
North is where there's a dirt road,
Yeah.
but they gravelled it. Yeah, they gravelled it.
The roads we did were likely going to have to go put gravel on them again. You know, we've done this and we'll have to gravel some more to get some surface to drive on.
I was always gonna check it, but I haven't had a chance to get out there yet. You said they did 220 between 162 and 163, that, I figured out that's north of, or south of Franz.
Yeah, I think so, up there
Yeah,
somewhere
I was
else.
gonna check that road, see what it looked like, and I never had a chance to get there, but I will get there.
I think Mr. Burghart's road is next. If
And
it's not,
Burghart's Road is done or next?
it's either done or about to be done.
Because that's
It's the
one of
next
the
one.
worst ones too.
Yeah.
Okay. Scrubbing, you and I talked about 216 and 161 for years already, eh?
Yeah,
There's nothing done there yet.
Just west of 161.
So hopefully that can get done.
As of the 5th of June, it will be unlikely that we have an operator for that.
So we're gonna start advertising,
We have to discuss in camera why
Oh, in
we don't have
camera,
an
okay,
operator
okay.
for that.
okay.
There's another detail council's not yet aware of.
Yeah, okay. One last thing, we had a delegation last meeting, Alec Hallistrick,
Mhm.
and he discussed about calcium 158. Are we designating that as a haul road?
Council hasn't made a decision.
Yeah, we haven't. No, I think we forgot about it, didn't we? Because we ended the meeting and so we'll discuss it later or?
Discuss it now, if folks
Discuss it
want.
now. 158. Remember, he was in here last,
I wasn't here, Brian.
we
no.
were,
Yeah, he missed
remember he
that
was
one.
here last meeting and he said it's a busy haul road. That's at Brown Bridge, Burnside Bridge.
Yeah,
And he says everybody, not everybody, but a lot of heavy traffic comes over that Burnside Bridge and you kind of want to know if you could pay for half this calcium, but we haven't declared it as a haul road, but I think there's another resident, a couple of residents on there, isn't there? There's, there's, who owns the Quick Stop?
Wayne.
He lives there, somebody, they live there, and then there's Burnside lives farther down there. So I mean,
Problem is declaring that as a road, there's a lot of other roads that have the same amount of traffic, so then what are you gonna do? You can't. I feel that, but you can't. That's just my opinion, because it's good, there's just as much traffic on other roads. Cause then they're gonna start, then everybody gonna say, well, you know, I have more traffic than that, and it's true. Cause there is a road with more traffic than that. So what are you gonna do? Everybody else is paying for calcium, I don't know.
So what are he requested?
I don't know, it just,
Ah.
you gotta be fair to everybody. And that's,
Are we gonna cover half this cost or no?
Well, it's not, does it?
well, how could we?
I don't-
If we're being
I
fair
don't
to
We have
everybody,
to do
yeah.
that for, like Carrie said, we'd likely have to do that for everybody then.
We would, we'd have to give everybody half.
Unless we designate it as a whole road, but, I mean,
But then you got a lot of other roads that get just as much. I don't know how you do that.
Councillor Zbirun, what say you?
Just listening.
are you getting any smarter?
I don't know, I probably am.
Councillor McGregor, your thoughts?
I tend to agree with, gonna do it for one, we gotta do it for all, so we really can't.
All right, Councillor Kushniryk.
Pretty much the same, and I mean, we added the one calcium tonight, and we have that meeting where we were supposed to add all these, so if we bring it up for next year, maybe it'll be different.
But if we bring it up next year, we're gonna pay everybody's?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
But-
there, I know,
but
that's
I mean,
what-
we don't wanna rehash this every meeting. I don't wanna talk about calcium
The
anymore.
reason why I brought it up is because he was here
Oh,
and we
I
didn't discuss
understand.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's why I just brought it up tonight.
yeah,
That's fine, no, if everybody feels he pays full shot, that's fine.
Okay,
Like I say, it wasn't discussed last time, we forgot about it, I guess, when we were in the meeting, I thought of it on the way home. But, no, that's fine, that's all I
anything
have.
else for your
That's all I
report?
have.
Okay, Councillor Blosha.
I have no committee meetings to report.
Councillor Kushniryk.
I just have rise, and we're gonna deflect that back to you.
Councillor McGregor.
I have nothing to report.
That's the first one in a long time.
Missed a good meeting last night. Councillor Neely.
Nothing been happening.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Zbirun.
Just the fire board was working at their meeting had on the 15th, I believe it was.
Do you want to share anything else about it?
We just went on the numbers. And I got the agenda here. Did the audit, fine. The financial audit, mutual aid agreement discussed. I'm missing a page. I think that was about. Reviewed the financial statements and had a meeting.
Okay. So I have a few things I can report. I'll add one thing to your fire board. We also discussed at that meeting whether or not to send a bill for a call we had gone to. Fire board has been trying to walk a fairly middle of the road line to bill only when appropriate. We attended an accident call. The accident was caused by a vehicle that was not registered, driven by a driver who's not had a license for some time. Because of that, MPI is refusing to cover the fees. The other vehicle is not an MPI vehicle, it's Alberta insurance, so they are also not wanting to cover the cost of the accident. So we approved at fire board sending invoices to the unregistered driver with the very real possibility that we will be suing them for it. More than anything, to drive home the point that the vehicle has been unregistered for multiple years, the driver has been unlicensed for multiple years, and witnesses report they drive that road and blow that stop sign all the time. So if for nothing else other than the deterrent factor, we're sending an invoice, we're likely to pursue collections on the invoice just to try and increase some safety in what's going on in the area. Starting from yesterday, I had a library board meeting, which Councillor McGregor unfortunately couldn't attend.
Yeah, it was at a funeral.
Poor fella that couldn't come to the library board meeting. They're so riveting. Over at the library, you remember last meeting there was an injury to one of the staff, so they've worked around that for the most part. They did not receive any summer student funding this year, so they've rejigged their budget a little bit to still provide for a summer reading program. That'll be going ahead. Some worries over there about the air conditioner. They've had the air conditioners fixed again after the copper pipe was stolen again in the winter. So they're looking into what could be done to change, whether we're building a fence, adding barbed wire, what we're doing to try and slow down the theft of air conditioner pipe, because it's costing thousands of dollars to replace this. I also attended the Video Water Plant last night. I don't know how many of you got to be part of the entertainment out that way, but Manitoba Hydro was called for pole damage last night in the Durban area. Was that you that cut the pole? No, I just
We
thought
weren't
from
even
the
anywhere
smile.
close, but I had lots of calls. Is your power on? I'm like, no.
There was a pole destroyed there, so I had to replace the pole. There was an outage, but somewhere in the midst of that, there was also a power outage to the Bonito plant. It was not reported by the automated system. We can discuss in camera as to why that is. But I did attend the plant afterwards, and we had gone to emergency just like it should all by itself. The plant had kept going. There was a spike in chlorine levels this morning, a result of that outage last night, but it's a manageable spike and we'll be carrying on just fine. We had our ditch road meeting on Friday. I've already reported on that. On Thursday, we had a RISE meeting. Councillor Kushniryk, as you can imagine, was so thorough with his report that I'll just add the few little highlights for the things he missed. RISE set the budget for 2025, so they looked at what they're going to do. There was much discussion of where the priorities are going this year, so the book is being completed. There's discussion of hiring someone to provide up to 80 to 100 hours of assistance to RISE to finish off that book that's being made to profile the valley, because the volunteers at the RISE board just aren't getting it done. So there'll probably be something with that decided shortly. Also looking at some promotional type stuff to collect some inventory of video and photos. So having someone to spend the summer posting to TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and various social media photos and stuff, but also collect those up for further promotional use. So working on some options for that. And then that was the most of it in the budgeting. Some good discussion of some of the projects that had gone on. The Bonito grocery store came up as a project that we put a little bit of work into, doing some business planning for them. So it was good. Back to the week before, the Friday, we had the GIS meeting with the RCMP. We had the fire board, which Councillor Zbirun reported on. The library performance review, I think, already takes us back to the last meeting. It's been a much quieter couple weeks for me. In the office, we've been mostly focused on this audit report. Earlier today, Workplace Health and Safety arrived at Swan Valley West to begin inspecting us. That will mostly be an in-camera discussion. We can report they've been in the office and they will be visiting some of our work sites tomorrow morning bright and early to check on our compliance with the rules there. So no doubt we'll be getting some more communication from them after that's done. We can hope that we'll be getting a clean report. Don't hold your breath. Most of the other entertainment that has happened in the last 2 weeks is in-camera material. We do take this opportunity to wish our staff member that was injured recently in an automobile accident a speedy recovery. Anything else for committee reports and communications? Hearing nothing there, we are going to adjourn the meeting for about 10 minutes, take a little recess, have a refreshment break for those that go outside to check the air quality. I'm sure it'll be great out there. When we come back, we'll be going in camera to discuss several HR matters, some enforcements of acts and bylaws as we referred to earlier, and probably some negotiations and preliminary discussions. So we are recessed until then. So we'll call the meeting back to order. Before we go in camera, we're going to go to 7.2. That's the resolution we didn't have quite ready before. Whereas the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West has received an application for a variance under the Rural Municipality of Swan River Zoning Bylaw number 2383-04 on the property known as 912 Poplar Avenue, specifically to reduce the minimum front yard setback distance from the road within the RR2 zone as per table 4.4 of Zoning Bylaw number 2383-04. And whereas notice the public hearing was posted and delivered to adjacent landowners in accordance with Part 6 of the Planning Act, and the municipality has not received any objections with respect to the said application for variance, therefore be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West does hereby approve the aforementioned application for variance request as per the application dated April 24th, 2025, and shall issue variance order number 2025-01, and be it further resolved, the Reeve shall be authorized to sign said order on behalf of the municipality. Thank you.
Well, we
Well,
just won.
Councillor Neely and Councillor Zbirun.
I didn't want to jump, I didn't want to get all at the same time.
Any discussion?
It's almost think we're adjourning the meeting or something.
Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.
Oh, how could you refuse that little girl?
Well,
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Never had someone put that much work into it.
That's probably why she brought the
The
little
little
girl.
bark comes around and delivers.
She probably brought the little girl here to kind of get a little soften everybody up.
I felt cheap, like we should have gave her a donut, but I thought what if she got loud, what if she
Yeah.
got
I was gonna give her some jelly beans or whatever those beans are, and they were that in the table. That's okay.
All right, heading to 13.1, be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523, the municipal and council shall meet as a committee of the whole, close the meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, preliminary discussions, investigation, enforcement of act, or bylaw. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Burick, and I see Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Coming over to our in-camera discussions, is there any resolutions arising from in-camera tonight we wish to bring forward? Hearing nothing, do we have any notices of motion tonight? Can I think of anything else to do to keep you from being able to put up your hands yet? Be it resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at 10:04 p.m. Be it further resolved, the next meeting is Tuesday, June 10th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Moved by, who's first? Is it Councillor Blosha first?
Sure.
And seconded by Councillor Neely. Very good. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you for a good meeting.